Well, hi everyone. I hope this message finds you safe and well. My name is Maggie Mello and my pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm an assistant professor here at SIL and also the director for the Equity in Making Lab. So today I have the opportunity to share a little bit about my research and also my teaching. But before doing that, I wanted to share a little bit of context in terms of how I'm arriving to my research and also to my teaching as an assistant professor. So I identify as being kind of an accidental academic. I'm a first generation college goer in my family, the first to get an associate's degree and also the first to pursue an advanced degree. And so after high school, I attended my community college out in Southern California, where I earned an associate's in science in early childhood education. And so I taught early ed for a little bit and then switched gears to focus more so on English. So I got a bachelor's degree in English and also a master's degree. And so during that time, I also occupied very kind of diverse set of professional occupations. At the very early part of that time frame, I was a ride operator at a theme park. And so then and up until now, I still have a lot of information about mechanical and safety systems about roller coasters. And I also know how to clean up various bodily fluids in like a safe way, which is probably something for a different talk. And so as a ride operator, I spent a lot of time doing that, but then I moved on to a different kind of field. I worked in human resources for a while, where I supervised the training and development for about 3,000 team members for that theme park. And so it was really exciting to develop programming, but I also, in addition to that, focused on employee relation issues. So I investigated kind of really unsavory things from Department of Labor law violations to sexual harassment in that occupation. And so after doing HR for a little bit, I then started working in corporate banking and decided maybe this isn't the field of work that I really want to stay in. So as I was working full time and pursuing my bachelor's and master's, I decided that I wanted to go ahead and pursue my PhD. And so I landed at the University of Arizona, where I then earned my PhD in rhetoric and composition, which is part of the English department. And so for folks, sometimes that raises a question, right? How are you in an high school then? And so it's actually not that complicated. As I continue to articulate this, before landing at SILS, I worked in an academic library for about 4 years. And so in that time, I was a PhD student and I helped the University of Arizona start their first makerspace in their science and engineering library. And so for folks that are unfamiliar with what a makerspace is, it's an environment that is dedicated to STEM-rich technologies. So you'll see different fabrication tools like 3D printers, laser cutters. You'll see computing equipment, microcontrollers, VR, among other kind of materials that are of the STEM-rich framework. So that's usually what's conjured to mind when we think of maker spaces. So as I was, working within that space, my research trajectory began to change in different ways. At first, I was not familiar with library information science in terms of the theories and the conversations, but that began to change. What also began to change was that I began to have these kind of lived experience questions that kept recurring on a daily basis as I continued to work in the makerspace and within an academic library. So the first question was, why aren't there more people that look like me in this space, right? Where are the Black, Indigenous, people of color? Why does this space continue to continue to attract a very narrow demographic? So that was the first kind of question that kept coming up. The second question had to do with something that happened at the threshold of a makerspace. This very kind of mundane behavior that I kept observing, where students would come to the threshold, stop, look around, and then a matter of moments would decide to leave. And so at first I would just dismiss it as maybe they were lost. I don't know what it may have been, but over time I found myself like running outside of the makerspace and trying to catch up with folks saying, hey, what's your name? What are you interested in? Can I tell you more about the makerspace? And over time, what I've realized that this growing sentiment was folks saying to me, oh, it's okay, the space is not for me. And so recognizing that, and also recognizing that many of these folks that were turning away were Black and people of color, that began to really solidify the research program that I'm pursuing today. I realized that that narrative for the makerspace wasn't unique to me. It wasn't something that was kind of special in my own environment, but it was something that many librarians and information professionals are trying to figure out and are grappling with. And so those questions that I had, as I said, is forming the research program I'm on right now. And so I'm excited to share that in July, the National Science Foundation had awarded me an NSF grant to really pursue those questions in earnest for the next 5 years. And so what gets me super excited about this is because, well, number one, we could kind of figure out systematically those questions and possibly think about some really generative interventions. But it also has started the Equity Making Lab. And right now it's our second month and I'm working with two phenomenal PhD students, Laura March and also Kimberly Hirsch. And we are at the process of actually doing some data analysis right now. I also want to briefly share that we are looking to add another member to our team. So it's for a PhD student, it's a funded position. The deadline is December 15th. So if that's you, please connect with me. I would love to chat with you, learn more about your research, and also talk a little bit more about what we're doing. And if this isn't you, please feel free to spread the word because I would love for as many people to know about the position as possible. And so that is a little bit about my research. So I'm going to switch gears and talk a little bit about my teaching. So teaching for me, I see it in a very kind of critical pedagogy mode. So a lot of my philosophy comes from critical pedagogues like bell hooks and also Paulo Freire. So I'm very kind of privy and acutely aware of like the power dynamics of the space and recognizing that learning in many ways could be fraught because of that. And so when teaching, I think about approaching it from a side of praxis where we engage theory, practice, and also reflection. So in terms of the courses I teach several of them now that I've actually have it written down, but they include information ethics, information resources and services, information professionals in makerspaces, information for diverse populations, which is a course that I'm glad that I have inherited from Dr. Sandra Hughes Hassel. And then in fall 2021, I will be co-teaching with Professor Raja Sekar, a class called Real-Time Data Science in the Makerspace, Making Sense of the Everyday, which is an undergraduate course, and I'm excited for that. A couple of things, talked about my research, talked about my teaching. The last two things I want to leave you with is I have a book coming out. November 2020 is when it will be released. It is co-authored and also co-edited with my colleague, Jennifer Nichols from the University of Arizona. And it's entitled Remaking the Library Makerspace, Critical Theories, Reflections, and Practices. And I'm super pumped about this book because it really centers the counter narratives and the labor of folks working in the information science field to really cultivate equitable and inclusive makerspaces. So I'm excited about that bit. And the last bit is some of the things I'm interested in right now. The Academy is an important part of my life, but it's not the only part of my life. And some of the things that I'm really interested in right now include cozy mysteries. Have y'all heard of that genre? It's pretty amazing. It's new to me, but there's mystery, there's an idyllic setting, and then sometimes these books have recipes. So I think there's something for everyone. So check it out if you haven't. And then also disc golf. I've been spending a lot of time outside, which I'm sure most of us who have the availability to do so are doing. So disc golf, it's fun. You could be socially distant with folks, and I think it's just a great way to get outside and explore different parts of the triangle. So that's it. That's a bit about me. Thank you for sharing your time and also your space, and I hope we get to connect soon. Bye.